So I thought we were pretty much done with the Jussie Smollett story, or the Jussie Smollett story if you're one of those people who demands that everybody on the internet repeat Dave Chappelle's joke about his name because for some reason you don't like it unless everybody copies Dave Chappelle because you have personal problems. But little did I know, or little did I expect, to show you how I still have hope and optimism, only to be dashed by the cold, stark reality that is our current timeline. There would be a second wave of people coming out to support Jussie, even after it was proven beyond any shadow of a doubt in front of a jury of his peers that he was in fact guilty of staging this race hate hoax. However, of course, I was wrong. It's horrible. Black Lives Matter released a statement recently, or post-conviction, saying that we can never trust the Chicago police. The Chicago police is be terrible, and therefore Jussie Smollett's ridiculous, damn near impossible story must have been a setup from the Chicago police by implication, or it must be true by implication. Why is Black Lives Matter supportive of Jussie Smollett, even though they're not supportive of the Osundairo brothers, when Jussie is only half black and he's a gay, and the Osundairo brothers are so black they're literally from Africa? I don't know. It's really confusing, but that's really neither here nor there, or as the professionals like to say, that is neither nya nor nya. What we need to talk about today is The Real Talk, one of my favorite shows on the internet.com that my girlfriend keeps sending me clips of because they recently did a Jussie Smollett conviction video, and unsurprisingly, amazingly, stunningly, they are still backing Jussie themselves. It's so crazy, it's actually aging me. It's so crazy, it's hurting my health. Oh my god, are we in a transition to a sponsor, Health with Justice? Our appearance plays a huge role in how we're perceived and our personal satisfaction, but unfortunately, there's a lot of shady companies that take advantage of this fact in order to sell you products that don't really work because they don't attack the problems with aging at the root. That's why I actually am sponsored today by Health with Justice. If you want to get something that will make your skin as soft and itty baby as my skin right here, then go to healthwithjustice.com, and for the next 24 hours, you can get 51% off your order. There's a 60-day money-back guarantee, so if you're not satisfied, you can return it. These products work. I scoop it up and put in my drink in the morning, and it's absolutely amazing. Go to healthwithjustice.com.
The verdict is in. Former Empire actor Jussie Smollett was found guilty on 5 counts of felony disorderly conduct for making false reports to police that he was the victim of a hate crime in January of 2019. Jurors deliberated over the course of 2 days following a trial that featured Smollett and his accomplices providing strikingly different testimonies over what occurred.
So the reason I opened this video with that opening is so that you can understand that this is not an old video. This isn't something that I took from the past from gullible people and said, haha, you believe Jussie, you're standing up for Jussie, even though his story was ridiculous. You know for a fact right now that this video is after the conviction. They know Jussie was proven guilty, and to give you an idea about how guilty Jussie was proven, the one count that they did not convict him on, the jurors that have spoken publicly, including the black juror that was on Jussie's jury, said clearly that the reason they didn't convict him on that is that they wanted to do him a favor because they felt he was so pathetic. The prosecution proved and showed Jussie Smollett with the Osundairo brothers out the day before scouting out the location for the hate crime. This is unbelievably, undoubtedly proven beyond any shadow of a doubt. Jussie got crushed in cross-examination, not to mention the ridiculous nature of his story in the first place. So they know this, or at least they should know this, and yet this segment is going to go on in the way that it's going to go on. No spoilers from me. Let's just roll into the clip.
I can't stop shaking my head. Honestly, this case, I did not think I would see him go out like this. You
Really?
know, such a talented actor. And the part that's really so hurtful too is all of these people that came to his defense out the gate because he called it a racial crime as well. So that, of course, amplified things. And of course, even back then, where we were with racial tensions was definitely a different place as well, so it does not make things any better. I think it's just really sad overall.
So I just want to highlight this specific portion of the video for you because it just goes to show you that there are in fact no standards on the left except for double standards. Remember when Netflix released that Ted Bundy documentary, and in that documentary they talked about the intellect behind the guy who was this prolific serial killer. In fact, they talked about how the judge, after after Ted Bundy defended himself in a court of law, complimented his intellect, and said that it was a shame that he wasted his life killing these people before giving him the maximum sentence for the murders. And people said this was white privilege. Ted Bundy was just a mediocre white person. White privilege is why Ted Bundy was allowed to kill so much. White people, even like serial killers even, we hate white people. That was the overall narrative from the left wing related to Ted Bundy. Yes, they were trying to cancel Ted Bundy, not for being a serial killer, but for being a white person, and all these other white people that supposedly were playing into Ted Bundy and giving him a break because he was white, even though he got the maximum sentence for his murders. And this was just the judge commenting on his ability to defend himself in a court of law, because by all accounts, Ted Bundy actually did perform well as a defense attorney, not that well since he was convicted, and this is unusual. Typically, people who represent themselves are absolute buffoons, and that's what was being commented on. Bundy wasn't given any special breaks, special perks, or anything like that. Again, he got the maximum sentences for his crimes. He was treated with disdain, but they hyped it up as if this was some form of evil white racist white privilege. But this woman is talking about Jussie, who was just convicted, and how talented he is, and how, oh my god, I didn't think he was going to go out like this, and Jussie, oh, how could it possibly end? I didn't think it would be this way, even though this is post-conviction. So, again, no standards, but double standards on the left wing. This is normal talk among the left about how talented and how cherished our little Jussie just would have been. Meanwhile, Jussie wasn't even that famous at the time that this crime happened. He's now known far more for this, unless you watch the shows that he was on. I did not, never heard of the guy, than anything else, and this is what will be attached to his name more than anything else. But they want to highlight this and talk him up and hype him up, because this video is about to take a very strange dark turn for somebody who is now convicted beyond any shadow of a doubt as a hate crime hoaxer.
Yeah, she said people that came to his defense. I'm like, Lonnie sent me literally a live news report where they put me up talking about they should not be saying this. I don't even like that they're trying to, insinuate that this is a lie or a fake hate crime. I was that person that came to bat for him.
So we have this woman who's talking over Skype because of reasons. I don't really want to get into it. And she's talking about how she was one of those people, unsurprisingly from all the other videos that we covered of her before, that blindly supported Jussie and was angry and apparently ended up in a reel of people who were saying, how dare you question Jussie's ridiculously insane, no chance of happening story. And she's about to get into the main premise of her argument. She's about to get into the case that she's going to make, which will be made throughout this video. And I just think it's amazing that this is going to happen. So I'd like to pause for station identification, let you know you're watching the AJW channel. Hit like and subscribe before we get into this argumentation that she's going to bring us from her bootleg little cards.
My biggest issue at this point, though, is that there's a difference. I got my little notes here. Have my own little bootleg cards. The difference to me is there's a difference between supporting someone. I'm not saying that I'm supporting Jussie.
So first of all, she is supporting Jussie. She is a Jussie supporter. All of these people blindly attach their name, their credibility, their reputation, their honor to Jussie Smollett. And the honorable thing to do if you want to salvage any of those things is to admit you were wrong and talk about how disgusting what Jussie Smollett actually did was. But she's saying, I'm not going to support him.
But there's a difference between supporting someone and recognizing that there is not equal repercussions for crimes.
Yeah.
But watch that denial, deceit, and deflection come in all at once in her next statement.
And that's my issue. Like when you look at Amy Cooper, who obviously was in Central Park and made that phone call saying that someone was about to harm her, that was a lie. That woman only did some community service, I think it was.
Right.
And so I'm just saying keep that same energy for Jussie.
So what she brought up is Amy Cooper, who had been dubbed by the media as the Central Park Karen, and she's saying that Amy Cooper only did community service for her crime of wrongly and racistly reporting a crime against an innocent black man, Christian Cooper. But here's the thing, Amy Cooper was actually not convicted of anything. Amy Cooper, as a PR stunt, agreed to go into counseling based on the media firestorm that she was dealing with. But the charges against Amy Cooper would not have sticked. because what Amy Cooper did, and yes, she was exaggerating, yes, she was screaming into the phone, yes, she was in a panic, was call the police and report on somebody who was doing and has later admitted to doing exactly what she claimed he was doing over the phone. Christian Cooper didn't like people walking their dog in the dog park. According to his Facebook post after the fact that came attached with the video that all these media people like to ignore, Christian would carry dog treats on him to punish dog owners and scare them into leashing their dog. Amy Cooper was walking her dog without a leash. Christian Cooper did this, and he said in his Facebook post that she started to panic when he started luring the dog over to him and the dog started moving in that direction. That is why in that famous video you see Amy Cooper gripping her dog like, like the jaws of life, like clamping down on it, because Amy Cooper is trying to hold on to her dog because what she's afraid of is this adult man who confronted her in the park and threatened to take her dog. So yes, is it a bad reaction? Obviously, but you have to put yourself in the position of a woman in a dog park, and if it were not for the races of the guy being black and her being white, this would not be anything outside of the norm. Go harass a dog mom in the dog park, I'm not encouraging you do it, and tell me you're going to get a different result regardless of your race or of the dog mom that you're harassing. I don't think you will. That's why Amy Cooper didn't get anything close to what is being put forward by Jussie Smollett, because unlike Amy Cooper, who was never convicted nor never alleged to have committed a false police report, Jussie did multiple different times. So let's see your next example.
You also have Kyle Rittenhouse, who shot 3 people. He's not doing time.
So Kyle Rittenhouse, of course, was found not guilty. He shot those people in self-defense. It is all on video from front to back. I know we did the real video where they covered this and they talked about it, and they got every single thing wrong in the case, and this woman in particular was the one who was getting it the most wrong and spazzing out of control, no emotional discipline, was screaming, "How? How?" every single second in the video because she couldn't understand based on her false, almost completely backwards information related to the case that Rittenhouse looked like he was going to get off, but Rittenhouse was completely innocent of the charges that he was charged with. So saying Kyle Rittenhouse, who was found not guilty, isn't going to serve any time, so therefore Jussie Smollett, who was found guilty on 5 of the 6 counts, doesn't really make sense. It's an absolutely terrible argument, but guess where she's going with this? Guess where this argument is going to lead to? Guess what is going to be impacted with this case, with her dialogue, how she's going to make the argument for Jussie, what he might be a victim of if he gets a real sentence for the actual crime that he committed.
Again, I don't agree with what he did, but at the same time, we do have to recognize that there is not equal treatment for this black man. That there is not equal treatment for this black man.
Think about how ridiculous this is. Jussie has been proven to have faked, among other things, a race hoax against himself. He has been proven that he framed white people for this race hoax. It has been proven in court that Jussie Smollett framed Trump supporters for this racist, homophobic attack. But this woman has taken all that information, put it in the blender that is her mind, and determined that if Jussie Smollett gets punished for the thing that he's convicted of, that will be evidence of Jussie being victimized based on his race. So if you're a black person in America, if you're a famous, rich black actor and you fake a race hoax to divide the country, you go out on national TV, you lie consistently in ridiculous ways, you perjure yourself on the stand, and then you get punished for that or you get convicted of that, any consequences against you are evidence of the racism that you had to fake in the first place, even though that's just you getting your just desserts for the crime that you actually committed. These people are absolutely ridiculous and insane. And again, she prefaced this by saying that she's not a Jussie supporter. I mean, she said she was initially. She was one of those crazy people who said never question any of the ridiculous notions of Jussie Smollett's hate hoax. But now she's saying if Jussie faces any consequences, because Rittenhouse, who was found not guilty, didn't face any consequences, and Amy Cooper, who didn't lie and was never convicted, didn't face any consequences according to her, then that will be evidence of the racism that Jussie had to hire people to stage in the first place. I mean, think about how absurd this hoax was. Jussie couldn't even find white people to pay to stage this for him. He had to hire 2 black actors for those traditionally white roles in order to pull this off. Also, and I think this is incredibly important, and it was mentioned by Matt Walsh recently, and I've mentioned it before on this channel, but I haven't mentioned it as consistently as I should. What if there would have been two poor white people that happened to be walking the streets near this crime? What if the Chicago PD actually believed Jussie Smollett's hate hoax and arrested those people? What if their names got tarnished in the press? What if they were attacked mercilessly? What if members of their family were threatened? You think Jussie would have come forward and said it wasn't them? You think Jussie would have stood by and let them fry? I think he definitely wouldn't have come forward, and I think he definitely would have showed up in court and testified against people that he knew was innocent because he didn't care about anybody in this scenario except for himself. That's what he did to his friends, the Osundairo brothers, at trial in this case. Imagine what he would have done to two strange white people that he considers guilty anyway for being white based on his ideology. But Jussie Smollett needs mercy. Jussie Smollett needs a break because Kyle Rittenhouse was actually innocent of the crime that he was charged with. Therefore, Jussie needs some kind of discount justice. Absolutely not.
Well,
These are the
definitely,
facts.
and that's why the, BLM has they have voiced their support. They are behind Jussie. They say that basically, quote, their thing is that police should never be trusted.
So we talked about the Black Lives Matter statement on Jussie Smollett earlier in this video. Again, terrible organization from top to bottom. And when you have an organization that's built on race hoaxes, it's not surprising that they're backing Jussie Smollett in his race hoax. That's what Black Lives Matter does. Almost all of their cases are in fact false race hoaxes perpetuated on this nation, so Jussie is totally in line now that he's convicted with Black Lives Matter even further than he was before.
Also, just, you know, Adrian knew this, but Jussie, when all that was going down, he called me to give his side of the story.
So Jussie's connections are one of the biggest things that have worked to undermine justice in this case, and it might actually have an impact in the sentencing phase. We don't know. Remember, Jussie Smollett was close with Michelle Obama. Michelle Obama's staffer was reaching out to Kim Foxx, the district attorney, who ultimately had to recuse herself due to her many conflicts of interest in prosecuting this case, to basically bolster the case for Jussie Smollett. Don Lemon was advising him, and now we find out that this woman on this discount third string knockoff of a knockoff of a knockoff of The View was also in communication with Jussie, and apparently Jussie was using drugs, and somehow that has some impact or whatever, just trying to fart in the room so nobody really smells the BS.
And I will say that he did admit to me that there was some drug use. And I'm going to say this. Drugs make you act differently.
For sure.
Drug makes you think differently. And I hope that Jussie gets himself together.
So yeah, part of the confidence behind Jussie's very public and very ridiculous lies is based on the fact that these people would go to bat for him, and honestly, Jussie was right in that regard. It was the one thing that he was correct about. These mainstream media people will back him through thick and thin and make ridiculous arguments on his behalf, even after it's been proven that he's a liar.
He is still maintaining this. I do think that he will not get jail time. I think he will probably get probation, and he'll probably have to do community service. But I think the bigger issue is that there are a lot of lessons that we should learn in this.
Absolutely.
I always say, and every time something happens, don't I say this, Adrian? I say, we need to take a beat. We need to take a beat before we react. And I think we all reacted because we believed in Jussie's image.
Of course.
The good
Correct.
guy, openly gay, you know, and we just believed it. And we didn't take a step back.
You know, I make fun of this show a lot on this channel. It's one of my favorite things to watch and make response videos to. I do call it a knockoff of The View because that's exactly what it is. And it's also meant to appeal to a more minority audience. That's what you see based on the cast. The women are younger. The women are not overwhelmingly white like The View and that other version of the show. I think it was called The Talk with Sharon Osbourne. But I will say, even though I have major disagreements with this woman on the left, if I'm being honest, this is 2 videos in a row where I've agreed with points that she has made about the topic that they're talking about. This was one of the people who were talking about how it's ridiculous to try to enforce Latinx on a bunch of different people from my previous video on The Real Talk. And in this video, she says that the lesson from the Jussie Smollett case, and these are people who want to believe in hate crimes, who want to believe that black people and all these minorities are being victimized by evil white supremacists, is to take a beat, take a break, take a step back, and wait for facts to develop. I actually think that that is a genuinely good lesson to take away from any of these cases that people just jump on because they confirm their narrative, only to have them later blow up in their face. So this point totally solid from her, totally on board from her. I know she's still defending Jussie. I know she's still personal friends with Jussie, but I actually do appreciate that she took the correct lesson from this, because so many people in the media, so many people on the left basically said, even though this probably wasn't true, if they even had the courage to admit that, it still speaks to an overall greater increase of hate crimes, and it's basically spiritually true or morally true, as Ocasio-Cortez would say. So I do appreciate this moment in here, and I just wanted to highlight the good, because in a lot of these videos, I'm responding to the bad and giving no credit, so credit where credit is due.
And this is, for me, this is a lesson that no matter who it is, it could be the Pope. We have to take a step back and let investigations, let people have their day in court.
Again, I hate to do a 180 at the end of the video, but if I'm being honest, I felt a lot more dour about this segment when I decided to make this video rather than now as I'm watching it through again. Now, she said clearly there that she wants Jussie to win on appeal. I think that is a ridiculous position to hold.
I hope he wins his appeal.
And she doesn't want him to have a serious sentence. She thinks he might get probation, which honestly, I'm in agreement with her that that's likely the sentence, but she's still saying that the lesson from this is something that Jussie needs to learn. She's at least acknowledging his guilt and acknowledging that he's at fault. And it even ends with a funny segment right after this, where she talks about how even when she was talking to Jussie, she didn't think the story made any sense.
You can't even believe it. I mean, you know how many people to this day are like, the fact that this is even the headline for
Because even when he called me, I was going butter but you know, I should have known that. When I was going butter rum, whenever you go butter rum, it's like, it's some questions in which your story.
Lonnie, what the hell is butter rum?
Butter rum, it's like but you go butter rum because they talking so much.
Look, I don't know who this woman on the right is, and honestly, she didn't add a lot to this segment in either way, but I will say the woman on the left, the big woman, she has my support the most out of everybody on this panel. As we know, this woman on the Skype screen that was the How lady during the Rittenhouse video basically has nothing going for her except terribly regressive and embarrassing arguments, but this is a person who is on the left but actually thinks about things logically, thinks about their implications, and even though she lets her emotions, like her friendship with Jussie, cover her better judgment, at least later she's able to admit it after the fact. That's what she's doing right there, and she's even making fun of Jussie and her initial reaction to Jussie at the time when he called her to tell her about this story, about how she knew it was kind of off, how she thought it didn't make a lot of sense, but she just didn't want to believe it due to the image of Jussie Smollett. And when you're actually friends with somebody and your friend comes out with a ridiculous story, but you care for that person, I can actually understand this more than an Ellen Page who said that she didn't know Jussie Smollett and went on this entire rant about how Mike Pence was responsible for what happened to Jussie Smollett. So honestly, I do appreciate her. It's uplifting at the end of this segment, and this is where I'm gonna throw it off to you guys. What did you think of this segment overall? Do you think the real talk is ridiculous? Is this woman who says that since Amy Cooper, who wasn't convicted, didn't serve any time, and Kyle Rittenhouse, who was completely innocent, didn't serve any time, correct when she asserts that Jussie, who was in fact convicted, was 100% guilty, would have definitely framed two white people if he had the chance to get away with it, should have the equal sentence? Is that something you're on board with? Is that something you agree? I already know that. I'm just asking for comments and engagement and whatnot, because that's what the engagement folks tell you over at YouTube. But hey, like video, share, comment, subscribe, all the things. Support me via the support links in the description box, and follow Instagram. Till next time.